I think today we're going to have a rumor slash speculation Saturday. There are two stories that I wanted to go over here. One, I didn't expect to start kind of accelerating as fast as it has, although I guess it makes sense based on the timetable for this announcement, and that has to do with a Wii U game being ported to current-gen platforms through crowdfunding. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one to go over here and where it's kind of come from. And then I also want to talk a little bit about Sony and Nintendo possibly having PS4 games playable, technically playable on the Switch. And it kind of makes sense for the Switch to pretty much slide in and take over where the Vita left off. So a bunch of stuff to go over here. If you guys enjoy the video, make sure you hit that like button on the way out. Helps out a ton. Let's start with PlatinumGames. PlatinumGames, of course, has teased Wonderful 101 as like a Switch port for what feels like a while. I think it was back even in 2017 at one point. We saw like a tease. We've seen pictures. We've seen them outright talk about it at conventions, at different panels that they've had. Wonderful 101, we want to make it happen. Go ask Nintendo. The reason they've said go ask Nintendo is because if you look up the Wonderful 101 trademark, Nintendo still owns the rights to that trademark. So it was, or I say was, it might still be up to Nintendo for any of this to actually take place, as Nintendo would have to sign off on this stuff happening. Well, Game Explain posted a video earlier today, and this is a rumor. I thought it was more of a rumor, but it started to pick up more and more as it seemed to get passed around quite a bit, about PlatinumGames planning to kickstart a Wonderful 101 port. Yeah, that's seriously, they would go to Kickstarter, and I assume basically take pre-orders and maybe have stretch goals and all kinds of stuff to make this happen. And at that point, you're basically telling the fans, hey, if you really want this to happen like you guys say you do, you got to put your money where your mouth is, essentially, right? And when this Kickstarter goes live, because it appears that it's going to be going live on Monday, I will be very, very curious to follow it and see how it does in the first 24 hours when it's going to be undoubtedly covered by everyone, everywhere, probably even into Tuesday, like I said, the first 24 hours. So this was actually right up here that Eurogamer did, but it does point to Game Explain's video. So I'll link their video and this article down below so you can check those out and get a bit more information as to what's going on here. But the idea is pretty straightforward. PlatinumGames wants Wonderful 101 to be on the Switch, to be on current platforms. It's been Hideki Kamiya's thing for, like I said, years now, to tease it and try to get this done. I think they mostly wanted Nintendo to fund it and say, yeah, let's do it. But if you remember, Wonderful 101 did not sell great on the Wii U. And it even got to the point now, like, I still look at that game, and every time it comes up, people tell me it is a good game, it's a fun game, I should check it out. And there have been several times where I've thought about buying it for the Wii U and actually plugging the Wii U back in to go play it. But every time it comes up, I'm like, well, maybe it'll just be ported to the Switch. Maybe it'll be ported to the Switch. So I will be buying into this Kickstarter. I will put some money into this because it is, at least it's PlatinumGames behind it, right? It's not like it's some like fly-by-night company or something. This is PlatinumGames. So the other interesting thing here is there's been a lot of talk from others as well. Like Liam Robertson, for example, said the Kickstarter thing for the Wonderful 101 is true. I waited for Platinum to announce it on their terms. The reveal was set for Monday. I think that's what a lot of people were waiting to do. Like, there were more people than I thought, okay, seem to be knowledgeable about this, we'll say, rumor over this past week. I think it was even posted on 4chan, and I was wondering at one point if just somebody just wanted to put it out there and they wanted to throw it on 4chan, like maybe people I was talking to, somebody wanted to, I don't know. I just thought it was funny when it popped up there, because now people are looking at this and saying, oh, it's just a 4chan rumor. It's not. It's not necessarily a 4chan rumor. It does appear to be something that is happening this week. And you can tell that PlatinumGames wanted to kind of put Wonderful 101 back in the news by teasing it again, seemingly ahead of this Kickstarter being unveiled. I mean, you can see here they had Hideki Kamiya with a picture, and then the bottom left there of that screen, it says 101, and then below that it says 10/1 for the date. Yes, they were messing with the internet there, with Twitter, trying to kind of put that out there, teasing Wonderful 101 once again, seemingly days before a Kickstarter launching. And the one interesting aspect about this that people are really struggling with is the idea of the Kickstarter being for the PlayStation 4 as well. So not just the Switch, it would basically come up and say, hey, it's going to the Switch, it's also going to go to the PS4. Those are the two platforms that we chose, and that's how we're going to try to make this work, right? They're going for the two platforms right now that have the largest install base, or just they've worked with Nintendo a lot, so it would make sense that they would target the Switch and the PS4. I mean, look at how many units are out there. They'd be dumb to not do it if they are able to, just because the install size. And of course, with Kickstarter, you need to have the most amount of people that could potentially buy in order to make it successful. And I wouldn't be shocked if they even said PC, because why not, right? It's there. Why not take a shot at that? I get maybe Xbox they would look at and say, well, it doesn't have a very strong foothold in Japan. These type of games don't typically tend to sell the greatest on the Xbox One, so we probably won't target that system. They have to come up with an idea of how much time is going to take to port versus how much money are we going to get back, and how many potential customers and sales we can make to those customers. So it's going to be interesting when it launches, but the part that is throwing people is that PS4 idea, like they would port it to that as well because Nintendo's involved. But there's also a rumor now that PlatinumGames has actually attained full rights to Wonderful 101, and that's how they're going to make this work. Whether they bought it from Nintendo or came to some deal with Nintendo in some other contract or something that they get the rights to it, that's all I can imagine. Because I really don't think Nintendo would say, yeah, go ahead and also move it to the PS4. But on the other hand, Nintendo could have probably funded it at any time and brought it to the Switch exclusively, right? But they haven't done that yet either. So let's say the Tencent investment came in, and Tencent gave them enough money to where they could do some self-publishing, and they decided, hey, the Wonderful 101 isn't going to cost a ton of money. The biggest expense, outside of, obviously doing Kickstarter and having that money towards it, is getting the trademark back and having 100% ownership over it. So maybe that 10-cent investment was enough to push them over the edge and then get to a point now where they're ready to announce a Kickstarter that, by the way, they now have set up a Kickstarter account here with PlatinumGames, back 0 projects, but that profile is currently private. Look for it to go public most likely this week coming up, and I am curious how many people are going to be buying in to the idea of a kickstarted Wonderful 101. I will, because I wanted to play it without having to plug the Wii U in again and go through all of that. The Switch is just significantly more convenient than the Wii U, so I'd rather it be there. But let me know what you guys think about Wonderful 101 being kickstarted. The next story is certainly an interesting one. It has to do with remote play on the PlayStation 4, possibly working with the Switch. I mean, consider the idea that remote play is like the one thing that really kept the Vita alive for a lot of people. Even when Sony stopped making games for it, it helped to make your PS4 portable to a degree, right? Like you would essentially connect your Vita to your PS4 through the internet or through your local network, and then you would just play your PS4 games on your Vita streaming. It was a cool idea. I mean, why not? It was, if you already had a Vita and a PS4, it was nice that they worked together. And I even knew some people who actually went out of their way to buy a Vita to take advantage of remote play. But now, of course, you can do remote play on your phones. They've enabled that, where you can even hook up a DualShock to it. And they've also had it for your PC. Same deal there, you hook up a DualShock. So Sony has kind of worked away from the Vita, and yes, they have made it as unnecessary as possible to own one of those. That was like the last thing really keeping it relevant for a lot of people. And the Vita's also gone through some issues when it comes to having extra buttons like the triggers, for example. Those don't exist on the Vita, so we'd use the back touchpad, and it was a whole mess with that. But now we're starting to hear about a survey that was sent out by Sony where they specifically named the Switch alongside of 2 other devices that would be used for remote play. And this was posted up on Reddit by a username of Reddit Here First, which is a very clever name, of course. And it was under this one here that says, give it to us straight, and it has their survey there where you take it, and they had a couple of interesting questions. Now, they did ask about a slim or portable DualShock controller that is easier to carry on the go. I like that idea because one of the strangest things when it comes to xCloud or Stadia or any of these streaming devices or services for your devices that ask you to play them on the go is that you need to take a controller with you, and it's like that that's okay. I don't think that's very convenient to walk around with a bulky controller, but a slim controller that is more pocket-sized would be at least more manageable, I would say. Remember, we've reviewed some controllers here that are actually fairly slim and they fit in your pocket better, but they don't work the greatest when it comes to ergonomics. So if they can figure that out, that would actually be very helpful. They also ask about things like PS1 and PS2 games to play earlier generation games, for example. I would like that as well. I think that's fine to provide access to PS1 and PS2 games. And then, like, can you imagine playing PS4, PS1, PS2 all on the Switch for remote play? That'd be pretty cool. And then it says ability to play PS4 Remote Play on more devices, such as able to play on the Nintendo Switch, Apple TV, or Android TV. And this is a relationship that could actually work out pretty well for both Nintendo and Sony. Now, Nintendo has said that their strategy is to increase the install size as much as possible, pretty much any way possible within reason for them and their brand. Keep in mind, their brand extends beyond video games now. They're doing a movie, they're doing a full theme park. The Mario IP is obscenely powerful right now. It's basically the Mickey Mouse of video games, right? We're to that point. But the idea of allowing the Switch to remote play PS4 games would only give the Switch more benefit, and it would give people a reason who just own a PS4 to actually buy maybe a Switch Lite to replace their Vita. It also, of course, has the triggers on the back, but they're not analog, they are digital, but still, they're there, and that's actually not a bad idea. On the flip side, maybe Switch owners would say, hey, yeah, I guess I'll get a PS4 then, and, you know, I can play those games on the go as well, technically, through remote play. It's an interesting relationship that each one would probably at least benefit in some way, especially if the PS5 became remote play through the Switch. There have been rumors that xCloud is looking at the Switch as well, and they're working out a deal. So could you imagine the Switch possibly having, like, remote play through the PlayStation and xCloud through Microsoft and Xbox? That would be an interesting device to have, the Switch with all three platforms kind of playable. I mean, you're streaming, right? And we've talked about streaming being so-so at times, but it's there, and it does bring up the convenience factor, and it does bring up the idea of Nintendo pushing to sell to both audiences. People who just have an Xbox, well, maybe they'd buy a Switch if they could also play xCloud on it, and the controls are already there. And the PS4 owners, maybe they'd buy a Switch because they'd get access to Nintendo's first-party games, and it's kind of like another PS4 that they can have in their house even, especially if you have the hybrid and you dock it to your TV. Well, then you can also stream your PS4 through that upstairs or something. It would be really crazy if we ever got to a point where the Xbox One controller and the PS4 controller can sync to the Switch natively. I don't know if that'll ever happen because I think Nintendo wants to keep it straight up like their accessories, first party and third party if they license, but I guess you never know nowadays. Although I will say that this is a survey, and sometimes they'll just ask these questions just to see what the response would be from them. There's a chance that nothing really comes of this, but based on what a lot of people have been talking about with Sony and has been being passed around, it is interesting that Sony is looking at things like Horizon Zero Dawn going to PC and other parts of their business changing a bit to try to reflect with the times. So I guess you never know. Yes, this is a survey right now, but it was enough to kind of catch a lot of people off guard and say, wait, they're asking if you want remote play on the, they're asking if you want to play PS4 games on the Switch. That's weird. But yes, guys, let me know what you think about possibly Wonderful 101 getting a port through a Kickstarter. Do you think Nintendo should have just come in and just said, hey, look, all right, we're gonna cover this. We're gonna get this thing ported with you. We'll fund it. You guys did a great job with like Astral Chain. You're working on Bayonetta. Let's get Wonderful 1 moved over as well. Or do you think it's better for PlatinumGames to tackle this seemingly independently, right? Especially if they are able to move it to things like the PS4 and maybe PC and maybe the Xbox. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Switch came out first, like if that was their main focus and they were going to move it other places. But let me know what you think about Wonderful 101 possibly getting a second chance to sell. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.